On today's All-NBA show, Legler and I are going to break down two blowout games, but interesting ones. The Clippers and Kawhi dominate the Timberwolves, and then the Knicks keep rolling against the Celtics. Lots of interesting plays, debuts, different things that happen. This is the All-NBA show. What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Tim Legler. Legs, football season's over. All the distractions out of the way. It's time for some NBA.
Well, football season ended for me a long time ago, but I know what you're saying. Yeah, Super Bowl's gone. Now, I think you're right. I think we dial into NBA. Heading into the break, we know after the break, how good that's going to be with teams starting to position themselves for seedings and whatnot. College basketball pretty big at that time of the year too, but it's pretty much all hoops from this point forward.
It's all hoops. And by the way, college basketball this year, I'm into it because of one guy. I keep wanting to talk about him. We're not going to talk about him on the show. We're going to break down some NBA games, but I have to bring him up. Darren Peterson is so fascinating to me because of how polished he is. Have you watched this guy? He's so polished that he looks like a pro.
He's got everything you need. I mean, he just has the physical profile, the talent, the poise, athleticism. Yeah, I agree with you, man. He just, to me, he's going to hit the ground running as an NBA player immediately.
He reminds me of Kyrie Irving and just how easy he gets where he's trying to go. It's just like he walks to whatever he's doing, switches hands, does everything. He's a heck of a prospect, man. He's the reason, as I talked with Mark Stein yesterday, he's the reason half the league has decided to start tanking immediately. But we won't talk about that today. Let's instead get into a FanDuel game breakdown here. This is, of course, our segment sponsored by FanDuel. The game last night that I want to break down was the Clippers' blowout win over the Timberwolves, 115-96. It wasn't a particularly great game. The Clippers built a lead in the second quarter, and then it extended it in the third quarter and kind of just dominated. But it was interesting for a handful of reasons. There's a lot of interesting stuff that happened in this one. For one, we get the debut of Ayo Dosunmu with the Timberwolves. We also get to see this new-look Clippers team. They lose Zubac and Harden. And yet it wouldn't have gone at all like you expected given the way I set that up. It was the Clippers who dominated, and it was Kawhi Leonard who dominated with 41 points. I got a lot of notes here, but where do you want to start off on this one, Legs?
I think you've got to start with just Kawhi. I mean, it's this guy, when he gets going the way he did in this game, and honestly, it's been most nights like that. But this is one of his better games, though. It's so automatic and so precise that there's nobody like him. I mean, he really is a one-off, the way he plays, his style of play, the efficiency with his shooting, with how little the margin for error is because of his arc. And it's just so automatic when he gets to certain spots on the floor. And this one, it didn't matter. They ran everybody at him, and it was just easy work for Kawhi Leonard. Actually, really surprised when the game was over, and then you kind of go and you look at the box score after you just watched the game. So I'm surprised he missed 16 shots. I'm like, where did he miss 16 shots? It didn't feel like it. It felt like he was 14 for 30. It felt more like a 14 for 22 type game.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's where you got to start, man. There was no answer for him, and they have a number of guys they can throw at Kawhi Leonard. It was really futile. Nobody had a chance against him in this game. He got into that kind of rhythm. His strength, his balance, just the way he finishes off isolations with just how quickly that ball ends up in the back of the rim, and then it just goes straight down through. Every time, it's the exact same way that his shot goes through the rim. So you got to start there. He completely dominated anything Minnesota threw at him defensively,
including Anthony Edwards. And what I loved about this game was he wasn't the primary defensive assignment. As you pointed out, he went at everybody. They kind of threw a bunch of bodies at him. But there were a few times, Legs, and this doesn't happen that often, where you get superstar players, they're both superstars, similar positions, similar body types, and you get the one-on-ones. And both times, there were 2 times I can remember. There was a handful of others where they were like involved in actions together, but 2 times when the defense cleared out and allowed Ant to go one-on-one with Kawhi. Like, all right, everybody stay to your man. Let's see if Ant can get a stop on Kawhi. And both times Kawhi just sunned him, absolutely sunned him, and got to his spot. And to me, it's like it's just one game. Kawhi was on fire. He was dominant. But it was one of those ones where I was like, man, I wanted to see how that would go. If those 2 guys are guarding each other, what would happen? And Kawhi just made it look so routine scoring on Ant.
I agree. And there were some isolations where Anthony Edwards was guarding him. And look, I really have a lot of respect for Anthony Edwards' defense. I mean, I think he really cares. He wants to take on the challenges of guarding the star players. He's been that way since he came into the league. It's kind of one of the first things that jumped out to me. At no point, even in his first couple of years in the league, were they hiding him on anybody, like a spot-up guy. No, he's going to take on that elite guy at the 2-3 spot, and he's going to guard those guys. And, Kawhi Leonard has this way of the way he works on you and gets you on his back, and he starts going. You don't know which shoulder he's going to turn, and he rocks you back because he's so strong.
So strong.
He's immediately going to lean back away from you when it's time to release the ball. And it was so good that honestly, at the end of them, you didn't even get guys jumping to contest the shot. Like they just kind of like, oh, it's too late. He's already in his spot. He's leaning back. The ball's out of his hand. It's demoralizing when Kawhi plays that way because there's just nothing you could do. You're at his mercy. All you can hope for is a second defender to come his way and have him kick it out and give it up. And then maybe you could deny him back the next time. But when he gets into this kind of rhythm, it is so methodical, doesn't matter. And like I said, Anthony Edwards really competes on that end. Obviously, Jaden McDaniels is the guy that's kind of how he made a name for himself in this league. And he's even longer than Anthony Edwards. He didn't have a chance to contest those shots. And he took him into the post, Kawhi, a couple times. And just had one time he had a post up and they stepped through the double team as DiVincenzo was coming in. It was just an easy reverse layup. And you're just like, man, does this guy realize this is a game? This is an NBA game. This is not some drill that he's doing. Yeah. But it looked that way. It was that easy for him in this game. And as a result, man, you just felt like Minnesota was just taking the ball to the net so much and back on their heels so much because Kawhi Leonard was dictating the pace the entire time.
And you mentioned doubling him. And one of the things that I think is even different between Kawhi and Ant, because this is what I'm thinking about last night as I'm watching the two, is I'm like, if you didn't know better, Kawhi is definitively better, at least in this game. But one of the things he does that's so great is when you bring that double on him, he doesn't just get rid of the ball. He doesn't pick up his dribble. Because he's so strong, he's also so calm. Like his 2 bodies are closing in, right? You're trying to trap. He's just so calm, takes his time, walks you back. And sometimes he'll hold on and draw away so that the trap leaves. They're like, well, we can't trap that far out, so I leave. And then he attacks. But other times he'll drag it out, be very confident, and then dump it out to the roll guy or to whoever's the release valve. And he just does it in a way that is different than Anthony Edwards. And that's one of the things that is, again, I'm just watching Ant, one of my favorite players, but there's these things I need to see him grow into to where I know he becomes unstoppable. And Kawhi was doing many of those things, but just at such a higher level than I see Ant do it.
Well, listen, for Kawhi Leonard, the reason that we should probably just appreciate it more, and I know that, it's unfortunate how much time he missed. You think about how much more Kawhi Leonard could have accomplished if he didn't have all those injuries and have all the time that he missed because, here he is after all of that, still looks like this. And the advantage he has is he has this area of the floor that, you can lend itself to much more efficiency if you can master it. And very few guys can master it at this level. And most of the guys that master it at this level, a lot of times it's because they have just better length. They can go up over the top. They can get off contested 18-footers. Kevin Durant would be an example. He loves that mid-range pull-up shot. For Kawhi, it's not necessarily that. He's 6'6". It's not necessarily that. It's his strength and balance. That's really what it comes down to for Kawhi. And then this incredible just precision with his depth perception on these shots. It's funny because this guy came into the league and he was known as a defender early.
Yep.
And a baseline cutter. And like a good rebounder for a wing. And what he's turned himself into over the course of his career so you can get a game like last night. It's incredible how much time this guy has put into mastering his shooting and his one-on-one ability to just – because these aren't – you feel like they're not even contested shots. That's what's crazy to me. Like most guys that they operate in the mid-range, you feel like DeMar DeRozan, another example. DeMar DeRozan has made his living off of 18-footers. You feel like there's always a hand in his face, like someone's draped on him. And so it's even like, wow, man, I can't believe he's making these shots. With Kawhi, what he does to you with his balance and strength and footwork, by the time he shoots it, it doesn't feel like a contested shot anymore. And it's 15, 18 feet from the rim where there's a lot of traffic. So I just really enjoyed this performance by him.
Me too.
And had his moments too, and had his moments in the game offensively as well. But this game was all about the fact that the Timberwolves just could not slow this guy down. And as a result, anytime they did kind of make a little run and start to chip away at it, the Clippers immediately pushed it back to 15.
Well, a couple other guys because I'm with you. This was all about Kawhi and just how good he was. A couple other notes, though, on the Clippers side. Well, I'm going to start with this. I'll start with two things. One, the bench was very into this game. And the reason I bring that up is you get rid of Zubac, you get rid of Harden. It feels like a tank job. I know they're not tanking because they don't have a draft pick, but it does feel a little bit like punting on the season. And so I wondered what the mood would be with the Clippers. They competed. The bench was into it. The guys were up off the bench whenever big plays were happening, and it just stood out to me that I was like, you know what? The Clippers are not punting on the season. They're going to go hard. And then I want to Yannick Conan Niederhausen, their center, their rookie center. What a game from him. 15 points on 5 of 5 shooting, grabbed 6 rebounds, 2 assists, a block shot, did a little bit of everything. There's a bunch of guys on the Clippers I want to talk about, but just quickly, I don't know a lot about this guy, but he really impressed me with all of the variety of skills he displayed in that game.
I mean, you really noticed him because he was everywhere. Like his activity level was off the charts, and as a result, he did foul out in 17 minutes. But again, it just speaks to activity a lot of times. If you're committing fouls, it's because you're typically all over the place. It wasn't like he was getting picked on. So yeah, you noticed him in this game a lot. It's like a nice asset that they have to have a guy that's got some length that can finish plays, and he's really active defensively with his feet. So you're right. I mean, and this is a game you're waiting to see kind of what it looks like without Zubac. Probably even more so what it's going to look like without Zubac than Harden in a lot of ways, because of Zubac is just so critical on both ends for them. And this is kind of what it looked like. This team is down 19-6 in their last 25 games.
Yeah.
And that's just a really good win. I know Minnesota's struggling, but it's still a team that's been in 2 Western Conference Finals.
Yeah.
And this is the Clippers post-trade. Everything feels different. I agree with you about the energy on the bench. And a lot of times, look, after trades are made, there's so much tension leading up to the deadline. Once the trades are made, there is a new air in the locker room. And that sort of permeates everybody on the roster, because in some ways, some guys have a new lease on life, potentially, depending on the post-trade atmosphere. There might be new opportunities for guys. If guys are going to get traded, then that's a heaviness that the team is carrying around, and all that talk leading up to it, that's gone now. So there was an energy about this team, and you saw it right from the beginning of the game.
A couple other guys real quickly, and you could just say whatever you thought. But John Collins, I thought, was fantastic. And when he knocks down his three-point shot, you see what a versatile player he is. He can cut, he can defend, he can knock down the three, he can handle. He does a bunch of stuff. I've been impressed with him the last couple Clipper games I watched. Chris Dunn's defense on Anthony Edwards was unbelievable in this game. I mean, his stat line wasn't crazy. 9 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and a steal. But if you watch the game, I thought he did a great job of just bothering Ant, getting into his space, tipping the ball away nonstop, just making his life really difficult. And that's an impressive assignment for a guy giving up the size. And then Derrick Jones Jr., has only been back for 3 games. He was a plus 22 in this one. He was a plus 21 against Sacramento the game before. He's just such an impact player that you forget they've missed him for most of the year. But I thought those 3 guys just completed. I'm thinking of the Clippers as, they traded away guys. They don't have guys. And then I'm watching it. I'm like, man, they got a lot of guys.
Yeah, and even Kobe Sanders played well in this game. It's another guy. Yeah, he played 24 minutes, so he took advantage of some increased playing time, and he played really, really well. I agree with you about John Collins. I mean, I think he showed you in this game, like, you kind of forget like how talented John Collins is, because there were nights when they had everybody and they had this team that maybe he wouldn't get as much action sent his way. He wouldn't get the opportunities. When he's shooting the three, it's tough because he's athletic. He had a couple post-ups in this game, one of which he had in the third quarter where he just had a turnaround jumper on the baseline on the left block where he, against McDaniels, I believe he didn't even act like he knew he was there. He just went boom, boom, and it just spun away and made a pretty tough, like 18, 20-foot jumpers fading to the baseline. You're like, man, this guy has a lot of talent. Thought he played great. Chris Dunn, I agree with you. One of the things that Chris Dunn always stands out to me defensively, he's really strong. He's wiry, strong, but he is so quick with his first step cutting you off that he's one of the few guys, man, that can get up all the way into you when you catch the ball in the perimeter. And most guys are going to kind of put it up here, or put it above their head, or kind of size up defense. He immediately eats that space up. So he's based and he gets low. So he's down and waiting for your first move. And a lot of guys in that position are prone to foul. They're prone to get beat with the first step if it's a great offensive player. He's so low and quick, he almost always cuts off your first move. Now, some guys will have a good enough counter move if you're an elite player, and you can still get by him. But not most guys. Most guys don't have that. So if you cut off the first move, it feels like, okay, that ISO or whatever they were trying to do is kind of dead. Chris Dunn is really good at that. And then, of course, you had the him and Randall getting into it, which gave a little bit of a spice to a game that, was kind of one-sided there in the second half. And he gets ejected from the game, which he probably deserved it. I'm not sure why, he shoved Randall in the back and all that stuff took place. But I was impressed with his defense up to that point.
They played hard, man. I was impressed with the Clippers, and watching Kawhi, man, there's just not that many players. When he's locked in like that, there's not that many more players in the league that are more fun to watch because it's just so technically proficient, man. And it was a show. Go check out the highlights if nothing else.
Do you agree that no one else in the league looks like Kawhi Leonard when he's going like that?
It's weird, man. Like he's like Kobe in some ways, but he's like robot Kobe.
No, and I'm talking about but I'm talking about in the league right now.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
there anybody else in the league right now that looks like he looks when he gets going like that because of these shots that are just. It's almost like when you're watching the game and Kawhi Leonard gets going, right, and he's feeling it a little bit.
Yeah,
it's almost like you're 100% expecting the ball to go in when it comes off his fingertips. And there's not a lot of guys I feel that way about, even great players when they get it going. I guess, Curry a little bit if he gets on one of those roles.
It's a different thing, but yeah.
But it's a totally different look to it than what Kawhi is doing to you. It's a helplessness about it, and it's just so automatic. And it's not every night. I mean, he plays really well most nights. But this was one of those ones, man. This was like special Kawhi, and it was fun, man. It was just fun. Any NBA player that's that good, that gets it going like that, it's super entertaining to watch.
I think to me the only player he's similar to in that way is Shea. I feel that way about Shea, where they both
That's pretty good.
Like DeRozan's falling away to against a contest. He knows how to get to the space, but you can still contest it. Kawhi and Shea, and I guess Brunson to a certain extent, they're both so good at getting you off the spot so that you can't even contest it. So you kind of watch them in slow motion go into that elbow jumper, and it's before they even get into their shooting motion that you're like, yes, he's going to make that one. So I think that's
the one difference. I agree with you. That's good. Shea's probably the closest, and Shea does it obviously equally dominant in just like a different way.
Yeah.
I think the difference for me is Shea, most of his are like shoulders are facing the basket. Like that's where he does his work. Yeah. Middle of the floor, shoulders facing the basket, either ball screen or ISO, and then he's just going to murder you with that downhill stop, lean back, little pull-up jumper. Kawhi does so much work where he starts to go and then he just spins, and now he puts you on his back. And now you can see the defender trying to figure out which shoulder is he going to turn, because he's equally good going either direction. So it's more of a physical presence, I think, about it, where Shea, to me, it's more about the quickness and how quick he is to stop and get off the floor. With Kawhi, it's the strength and balance, get you on your heels, and now he understands where the leverage is to spin the opposite way and get a clean shot off.
Well, as fun as it was talking about the Clippers, we now have to talk about the Wolves, who to me are one of the most two-faced teams in the NBA. Because I still believe they are in the second tier of contenders. I mean, there's one tier that is just, in my opinion, the Oklahoma City Thunder at the moment. And then after that, you have the teams punching up. They're in that tier to me because I think their peak is that good. But this was an example of how low their floor is on some nights. And for all of the good teams, they have these stinkers in them that make you just scratch their head. And let me go to why I think this way. I mean, some of this is bad. They didn't shoot the ball well, but I think it all has to do with the approach they take to games some nights, and it stems from their leader. Legs, this is the first play. Just look at the screen here. This is the first play of the game. Can we pull it up, Atticus? Do you have that image there? This is the first play. You get a high screen with Rudy Gobert, and you have Brook Lopez. Now you don't have Zubats. You have Lopez. He's a fine rim protector. He can do some things, but he's old. You want to attack him and get open. Ant goes right into a step back, as you can tell. There's 6 seconds on the clock. Goes right into his step back to get to a three-pointer, a contested one, and he misses it. It's the first play of the game. And to me, it sets a tone on how you're going to be aggressive. The Clippers end up going on a run. The Wolves have to call a timeout, and out of the timeout, look, it's 10-2 because the Wolves have not been aggressive. 14 seconds on the clock, high ball screen. Lopez is out at the three-point line, and he goes to a deep three. This was the first 4 or 5 minutes of the game, and I just felt like when I watched this entire game, I thought the Wolves just weren't very aggressive. They weren't very tough. They didn't have a rhythm tonight. Well, it starts when your first 4 minutes come out, and you're just taking threes against a 40-year-old center. Like a 40-year-old 7-foot center. Attack him. And I just thought, to me, that was what this was all about.
Yeah, I mean, and even if you don't just come off the screen and you got a guy to drop coverage you could attack, you don't want to go right away. How many guards do you see in that situation? They'll back it out a little bit, and now get
Snake
Lopez
out,
sort of lumbering out there to the three-point line. It's going to be all cautious. And now you take a look around, and there's spacing, and now you can pick, where do I want to go to beat this guy off the dribble? Or get something a little bit close for a pull-up. So I hear you. Look, that's one of the things with Anthony Edwards, and he's been better about it, but I think one of the things was I thought there were too many games the last couple seasons where the three-point attempts dwarfing the free throw attempts. I just thought it was an imbalance for a guy this athletic, this explosive, that puts this much pressure on your ability to protect the rim, and what that can lead to. So I hear you. You start out the game, and look, a lot of guys aren't ready to go to the rim early in the game. They're not ready to go into that mode. So, he got a couple shots he thinks he's comfortable with. Now, if he hits a couple of threes there, who knows? I mean, he might go off. He might have a 20-point first quarter if he hits those. So it's almost like a lot of guys on that level. Luka does this too. Luka does it all the time.
They're right? Similar. And they're similar in approach.
Luka is I always joke that normally a heat check means I've just hit 2 shots. Now I basically can take any shot I want, and nobody in the building can question it. That's what a heat check is. And I always say Luka is that rare guy that takes a heat check the first trip up the floor. Like, he's going to take a heat check, dip his toe in the water. Let's see how I'm feeling tonight. And usually it's with a 3-point shot or some sort of a lean back mid-range. So there are great scorers that sort of do that, and you want to get a couple jumpers up early, and if it goes, man, it could really set them up for a huge night.
But out of a timeout, you're down 10-2. You have a bunch of turnovers. They turned the ball over like 7 times in the first 4 minutes of this, and I think a lot of it was the defense was never in rotation. So Kawhi had a couple steals, and it's like he's sitting on that deny pass, 1 pass away, just sitting on it, doesn't have to move, and so when you make the pass, he shoots the gap. And it's because if you're not attacking, nobody's ever in rotation. They weren't attacking, call a timeout, come out of it, give Ant the ball in a high screen situation, and he does a step back 3-pointer. And I'm just like, what are you doing, man? It drives me nuts. And I thought it set the tone for the whole game for them. This game really was about the debut for Minnesota. It's about the debut of Ayo Dosunmu. And here's what's crazy, Legs. Even though it went horribly, it was a really bad combo or just a really bad performance. And what did Dosunmu end up? Minus 33. Like, it could not have been worse, the minutes that he was out there. And yet I'm still intrigued by it. It's like, this is the first game, a debut. Bones Highland was really rough in this game, but I think he can play better than that. Bones Highland, Dosunmu, interesting backcourt. And then they play him with Anthony Edwards, Gobert, and Naz Reid. And I just look at that and go, yeah, that seems like a tough lineup to guard. And it seems like it's a lineup that can guard pretty well. It didn't work out in this game, but it was our first look. What do you think about as you watch that group make its debut?
Yeah, and look, his plus minus was minus 33. Obviously, it's one of the reasons you don't just always just kind of point to that, because he got caught up in a couple bad runs.
Really
when he was
bad
on the
runs.
Floor. Overall, I said it, I tweeted about it. Because some of the big names, those are going to be dissected, everywhere by everybody. I like some of these smaller moves and just in terms of name value that teams added. And this was one of the guys that I really pointed out. And I got to see him, in person. We called a Bulls game earlier in the year. I absolutely love this guy. I think he's going to be a major rotational player for them. I think he's really going to help them. Has shot the ball from the 3-point line the last 3 years, 45% this year, 42 last year, 45 the year before that. I mean, that's not a guy that's just adequate 3-point shooter. This guy can really shoot the basketball, plays really hard. He's going to be a major factor for the Timberwolves, regardless of whatever the plus minus was last night and the runs he was caught up in. No question in my mind. I love the acquisition by Minnesota, and I think the people in Minnesota are going to come to love this guy.
I think Bones Highland now becomes such a huge piece for Minnesota in this way. I mean, he's a Denver guy, or was in Denver, got drafted by Denver. I really love Bones Highland, but the question is his basketball maturity, because he is in a position where he has to run that unit. When he's out on the floor, he has to run it, so the team is going to mirror however he is playing. He was really rough in this one. He played great in the first 4 minutes he was in, and then it was downhill after that. And when he's rough, the team falls apart. Every team, if you go to the contenders, they all have two identities, like a good one. What are they when they're at their best, and what are they when they're at their worst? When they're at their best, the Timberwolves are tough, physical, defensive-minded, and they have a bunch of guys that can get you one-on-one. Anthony Edwards could get downhill, defenses collapse. Bones Highland's part of this. He could shoot the three, and he can collapse the defense. At their worst, they look like a dumb team. They make dumb decisions. They're easy to guard because the ball guys can start to make hero plays. I thought last night Bones Highland's minutes were him doing stuff that was like, man, the Clippers are on a run, and you're playing right into their hands by trying to win it all back at once, and it just snowballed. So for me, he's a weird X factor because he has such an important role to the personality they play with.
I agree. That's kind of how I've always viewed him. Like, just nights that you're like watching this massive offensive talent that can really score and get going. And he's actually coming off 2 great games. He had back-to-back 20-point games coming into this game. But then there are times when you watch him when he's not necessarily making shots, and that's when you start to question his reads and what he's looking for out there. There's no doubt the guy could score. Yeah. And teams that need scoring punch, he's going to help you. I'll be interested to see the consistency with which he plays once these games start to become critical later in the year when you're really talking about seeding. Amazingly, look, this team is a half a game up on the Phoenix Suns now. I mean, think about that.
That's crazy.
Phoenix is on the verge of passing them and pushing Minnesota into play-in territory. So, there's a lot of important games coming up after the break. And I'll be curious to see once those games get really important as you head down the last month of the season into the playoffs, trying to position yourself or certainly avoid the play-in for Minnesota, the consistency with which they're giving Bones Highland minutes. I want to see what Chris Finch does there.
Well, to recap, and we got to head to our break now, but to recap, Clippers, very intriguing, made big moves, but yet the team looked really good, and Kawhi Leonard's a monster. And then the Timberwolves, one of the toughest teams, second-tier contender, but also one of the dumbest teams in the NBA on some nights, and it drives me nuts. Let's take a break. On the other side, we'll talk some Knicks and Celtics, also an interesting game with lots of details, including a rookie making waves for the Knicks. We'll get to that on the other side. Know why betting the winter games on FanDuel makes sense? From game lines to medal counts to finding your angle on the events you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. The winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with a bet on FanDuel. Curling matches that start slow and somehow get tense fast. Curling is every 4 years it comes around. People get so into it. Speed skating decided by inches. Hockey games that feel different from the opening face-off, and so much more. FanDuel, play your game. Must be 21 or older and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 or 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Also want to tell you guys about Shady Rays. You guys know that moment, the one you realize you left your favorite pair of sunglasses at the beach, on the roof of your car, or at a gas station 3 states away. We've all been there. Sunglasses are so easy to lose or break, But that's why Shady Rays came along and completely changed the game. They got sunglasses that are made for real life, seriously good looking, polarized, durable, and not stupidly expensive. And the wild part is, if you lose or break them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trips, just replacements. So now you can wear your sunglasses without fear, on hikes, at concerts, on the boat, wherever. One of the best ways you can support the show, by the way. Everybody needs sunglasses. Everybody breaks or loses sunglasses. Use Shady Rays. They've got your back. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com, and here's the important part. Use our code AC35. You get 35% off of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. All right, back here, segment 2, me and Tim Legler. Let's talk about the other game that happened, and it too was a blowout, and that was the Knicks blowing out the Celtics. Very impressive game. Lots of notes in on this one as well, including a rookie I want to talk about. But first, Legs, what stood out to you about this one and how the Knicks were able to keep the Celtics at bay the entire game?
Yeah, and the Celtics made the run. They cut it to 4, like mid-third quarter, and then the Knicks, I think, ended the game with an 18-point advantage from that point on. Kind of similarly to Kawhi, just not as extreme, but Brunson kind of controlled this game and his start to the game. And he's similar in that when he comes out and he hits a couple of shots early, particularly a couple of perimeter shots early, deep, he's like different. You got a real problem on your hands trying to contain him because he's just so good at controlling the ball against ball screens, and just he slows it down to such an extent to force you to react in a certain way. It just helps their entire team. So I thought Brunson was sensational in this game. And then this is one of those nights, we've talked about it now for several years, when the Celtics have one of these nights where they cannot make a 3-point shot. This is what it looks like. 7 for 41 from the 3. I think 2 for 18 off the bench from the 3-point line. That's tough. Some of these guys you're counting on because those are shots they're getting. That's the way their offense is designed. And these are good looks, and they couldn't make shots. And when they don't, they're going to have a problem. Any team in the league that shoots like that from the 3-point line is going to have a hard time winning a game, but particularly Boston, because it's such an identity for them. It's such a percentage of their shots come from there. Some nights there's just not enough answer in other areas to figure out how to supplement that offense. So their 3-point shooting combined with, I thought the Knicks played a really sound game, and Brunson controlled the game.
But it was the worst shooting night of the entire season for them, 17%, 7 of 41. So this was definitely an outlier game. And to your point, they do have these. I was just looking it up. When they shoot below 32.5%, they have 5 wins, 12 losses. So you can see how much of a difference it makes when they have their bad shooting nights. And, of course, if they're 41% or above, which they do frequently as well, they're undefeated. So they are extremely reliant on not being ice cold. And in this game, they were ice cold. But I kind of think the Knicks had something to do with this. Not all. I mean, they did get open looks, but not that many, man. The Knicks were, for like a month stretch, the worst defense in the NBA. Very recently, about a month ago, we did a show about how bad they had been. All of a sudden, their defense is into every play. Like, they compete for every entry. Bring the ball up court, you're going to compete just to get the ball up court. Inbounds pass, you're going to compete to get the ball inbounds. They just compete every little detail, and it is exhausting. And I'm kind of blown away that a team that could look like the worst defense in the NBA can flip it and look like one of the most physical and best defenses right after that.
Really incredible. I mean, you're talking about a team that lost 9 of 11. Yeah. 9 of 11. I mean, that's for a team like the Knicks that you're thinking could end up in the NBA Finals. Like, this is a team that loses 9 of 11 that time of the year, and now they win 9 out of 10. Right on the tail end of that. Agree with you. Like, for me, when you watch the Knicks and you see how hard they're competing defensively, and it kind of takes you back to like the 90s Knicks. Like, they're getting after it. They're physical. They're all over the place. Like, because they've got shot makers. Like, the offense isn't going to be a problem. The problem is going to be like defensively, can they create that identity that they are dictating terms to the offense rather than just reacting to the offense and what the offense is doing? Because when you're reacting to offenses, you're not catching up to them in the NBA. You're just not. You're going to get tuned up because of the way the floor is spaced and the amount of 3-point shooting. When you're dictating to teams kind of what you're going to allow, that's a different look and a different feel when you're watching the game. And that's what the Knicks look like right now. And that's what it looked like in this game. And you're always going to get an honest effort out of Celtics. Like, they're going to play hard every night. So this did have a lot to do with the Knicks. I'll give them credit for that. Now, you can always go back and find, a dozen at least 3-point shots that the Celtics missed. You go, hey, you know what? That's a shot. That's a good shot. They're going to make that shot at a higher rate. And maybe this is a different game in terms of we're competitive here with 6 minutes to go if they make some of those. But I do feel like the Knicks, aside from that, the Knicks did dictate things to the Celtics.
100%.
I thought they did a good job, man, denying passes out to the wing and just making guys work for every inch that they were getting offensively. So I agree with you. And now they've completely flipped the script on what people were starting to say about them. It's amazing. You're talking about now this is over a period of about a month and a half that this has taken place. Lose 9 out of 11, win 9 out of 10. Right on the tail end of it. It's really incredible.
And I think their depth is interesting to me now because they didn't have OG Anunoby. Obviously, they're without McBride for a while. I think guys like Landry Shamet and Jordan Clarkson are like, if they're on fire, they come in. That's what they give you, right? They might make shots. But I don't know how much they impact things outside of that. But there's 3 players that I think always impact the game, and I want to talk about all 3 of them. And the first one is the newcomer making his debut, Jose Alvarado. I know it's just one game. He looked to me like he fits the personality of this team perfectly. And when I talk about you're battling, you're fighting every margin, Alvarado is like he's in that perfect role. He only played 25 minutes in this one. That's perfect for him to be able to go out there and play with full energy. I just thought he fit what they were trying to do and what they needed in that role in a way that I go, that's a depth piece for them that I buy and I believe.
Definitely. I mean, he was the other guy that I said I kind of tweeted out and spotlighted some guys that maybe were not the big names, the big fish that people were talking about. He was the other guy. It was Dosunmu and Alvarado because I said to some Knicks fans that I know pretty well in the industry that he's going to become quickly a Madison Square Garden favorite. He's going to be one of those guys that what he does is just worth more than most guys coming off the bench that maybe have the exact same production on a given night. It's the way that he does it is going to endear himself to that crowd. He's going to become a massive spark plug for them because he just comes up with these plays. It is so irritating to his opponent. It drives him nuts. He had one last night. He missed a shot, a bat. Like I think he airballed a corner 3, and he just made like 3 shots in a row. And he airballed a corner 3 right in front of their Celtics bench. And then as the ball's coming up the floor, he just kind of sneaks around. He comes right up behind Jaylen Brown, tips it away from him from behind. He didn't see him. And then he runs out, gets a breakaway layup. And then he turns. Of course, he had something to say to the Boston bench, who probably were giving him a hard time on the air ball because it was right over there. So he immediately let them know about it. And his energy, the little plays that he makes that just drive opponents crazy.
Yeah.
It's a great pickup, man. They're going to love him there. The guy I feel bad for is Tyler Kolek because
it takes his role.
Kolek played well in the chance that he got, and he had some big moments for them. He had big moment. I think it was Christmas Day, right? He played great in that game, helped them win a game, tight game. He's had other moments for them. I really like his game. This is going to obviously relegate him. I think he played 4 minutes this game, and he still hit 2 threes. Came in and banged down 2 threes, so he's ready to go. But it changed his role exponentially. And I just think Alvarado is going to do things defensively that Kolek's not going to be able to do, and that's why he's going to earn these minutes, and he's going to create a lot of energy for this team, particularly at home when he comes in the game and has some of these weird plays that only he makes defensively. It's going to be a nice boost for them, and he saw it right away. 25 minutes in this game, and it had an impact.
And I love your point about him screaming at the Celtics bench because there are guys, and I think you need one on your team who, like, everyone will yell at the opposing bench if they're chalking a lot of trash to you or this or that. Some guys will yell at the bench for no reason, and Alvarado's one of them. Like, he just makes any play, and he's going to let the bench know about it. And that kind of energy, I think, just you need a little bit of that on your team. The other guy, there's 2 more guys. Real quickly, Mitchell Robinson. This game I don't think was like a particular standout, but if you're a backup center, I think rim protection and offensive rebounding are like the best skills a backup center can have, because if you're dominant at those things, the other team has to always think about that when you're on the court. That's what he provides. Mitchell Robinson checks into the game, and you're immediately worried about second chance points, and you're immediately worried about driving the ball into the paint because he'll block shots. And it's just so loud when he's on the court how much he provides those things. And it's nice that bench has this punch they can give you so Jalen Brunson can take these rests.
Totally agree. And they haven't gotten what they were expecting out of Jordan Clarkson. So that's got to come from somewhere else. They thought Jordan Clarkson would be that guy off the bench for them. Mitchell Robinson is their biggest spark off the bench, and he does it in limited minutes a lot of nights because there are certain situations you can't play him offensively, and in defense he's a little bit prone to picking up fouls. He only had one in this game, but because of the way he plays, he can play 15, 16 minutes and change a game entirely. I've seen him do it repeatedly, usually through his offensive rebounding and the number of extra possessions. He's giving a team with a lot of good offensive players. So even the possessions don't lead to something directly positive. It's wearing down a defense because they've got to play defense for 30 plus seconds a lot of times, 35, 40 seconds sometimes. At that end of the floor, it matters. It wears you down. Mitchell Robinson is one of the top guys in the league at having that kind of impact in 15 minutes or less.
I don't think there's anything more demoralizing in basketball than playing great defense for 23 seconds, giving up an offensive rebound that turns into a kick-out three-pointer. I think it's the single most demoralizing thing that can happen because you feel like you did all of the work and still gave up 3 points. The last guy, though, and it's the one I'm most excited to talk about, it's the rookie Mohamed Diawara, who gives you 10 points last night, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, and a steal. The points were interesting. The points were the type where you watch it and go, okay, he could grow into an offensive player with some off the dribble talent. He could shoot the ball. His shot kind of comes from his chest a little bit. It's a little low, but the form looks decent. He's smooth and fluid, but his defense last night, he gets the assignment of Jaylen Brown and he bothers him. He even gets to play in the clutch of this game late in the game. He looked so good. And not just did he look good, he looks good in the way that's intriguing. He has unique length, the type of length that's very rare in the NBA, a huge wingspan, 6'8", whatever measurables. And then the mobility and the fluidity with which he plays defense, enough so that he can bother Jaylen Brown. What a find this guy is, man. I think he's part of their playoff rotation.
I think you might be right. I mean, like you said, that the points are a bonus. I think he's had double figures 3 times all year in 43 games.
Yeah.
That's a bonus. That's not what he's out there for. He's out there to be disruptive defensively with his size and length, and he's a really long wing that now you can guard, usually 4 different guys on the court or 5 a lot of times just because he's strong and he's got great length and he's really mobile. Anything you get offensively is a bonus. I really like this guy a lot too. We'll see to what extent. Listen, bottom line is he's a first-year player. So what happens when you get into the nitty-gritty of a series? And
probably leave him open.
That trust. Well, I'm even talking about from a coaching standpoint. Like the trust factor tends to narrow on who you're over there looking at, like who you really trust in these spots because series hinge, on these pivotal games. And so we'll see about that. Here he kind of reminds me of. In terms of you're intriguing, could this be the kind of impact? You look at Naquan Tomlin in Cleveland, right? I've come to love this guy. He's become one of my favorite players in the league to watch. He kind of similar length, all over the place. You notice his arms in his reach because they're just running around and are all active. And it closes up windows for passing for teams because of how big they look when they're running through the lane and their arms are up. And Tomlin's been, doing it at a higher level. And he's doing it, for Cleveland most of the year. So his numbers are a lot better. Been harder for Diawara to find consistent minutes. He's averaging 7 minutes a game. Yeah, but I'm just talking in terms of you're kind of projecting out what he potentially could be. I agree with you. He's only 20 years old too. Tomlin's older than that. So they've got him. He's younger. Really intrigued to see what he can turn into for the Knicks.
I just love what Alvarado, Mitchell Robinson, and Diawara provide you. That's consistent. You can go out there. You're going to have some speed or length. You're going to have some defense, and then they can just make hustle plays. Don't have to run anything
for them.
Don't run anything.
Same amount of effort all the time. Right. It's great.
Yeah. I'm looking at this. I shut the playoff rotation thing from the hip. I'm looking at this and thinking, you have Shamet and Clarkson. And I'm curious about, do you play both of those in the playoffs? You got Alvarado and McBride, probably only one of those. We'll see who's healthy. And then Mitchell Robinson's a lock. So I don't know. Maybe he's right on the fringe of it. But I'll tell you what, every team can use a guy with that kind of length and defense if he can perform at that level. So Knicks fans got to be excited about him. On the other side, the Celtics, I didn't have a lot of notes because they were so off in this game, but Vucevic is new there. He was a -24 in this game in his 23 minutes. I don't know if this game was particularly indicative of it, but any notes on the Celtics side?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's very simple. If they're going to take a lot of threes, The nights they don't shoot well, and this is the extreme level of that, this is what you're going to get. You're just not going to have enough. You're going to have too many empty trips. And they don't necessarily on those nights, are going to have enough guys that could just go on their mini runs where you're winning one-on-one battles left and right besides Jaylen Brown. So it's just, and Derek White hasn't shot the ball particularly well all year. He actually shot it okay in this game, but you don't really have that second guy that can just go get you 12 points almost on his own in a different way than the way they play, which is 2 feet in the paint, kick out, and make you chase the ball. Yeah. And you don't shoot well. This is what it looks like. So I'm not too concerned. Celtics, to me, are very consistent with their effort. They're consistent with style. They're consistent with everybody understanding their role and lane and limitations. They've got, for me, my utmost respect on the year they've had, considering what they look like going into the season and even just looking at their roster and what they're doing. So I'm not worried about that. It's a terrible shooting night. Knicks played really well and played hard, and that's kind of what you get in this league. So the one other thing I will say, just talking about the Knicks to wrap them up. So they got one other thing that they've got to answer, Adam, right? Now that they're playing really, really well, they have played the Detroit Pistons twice, and they've lost by a combined, I think, something like 67 points or something in 2 losses, whatever. It may be worse than that. They've got them again on Thursday.
Ooh.
The 19th, right after the break. And I think that's a big game, man. I'm going to get a look at New York this week. Got them against the Sixers on Wednesday night in Philly.
Ooh, that's a good one too.
That's also a really good game. And you got Indiana tonight for the Knicks, and then you got Philly, so it's a back-to-back, and that can present challenges for teams. So we'll see. But if you get that one, you go into the break. You won, 11 out of 12, and then you get rested, get everybody back, and your first game back is the Pistons. With what they've done to you, and including just a couple nights ago, that to me is a game that the Knicks have to show up and represent and take it to that team and figure out a way to compete with them physically, because they've been absolutely mauled by the Pistons twice. And that's the team that you're thinking, hey, you know what? There's a good chance we could see them in the conference finals maybe. That's an important game. That's the only other point I wanted to make about the Knicks. Let's see if they can get 2 before they go into the break and then get rested. No excuses. You come out, that's your first game. Everybody's fresh, rested, and you go at it.
That's a huge one, man. And we'll have a show right after that too on Friday morning. So that'll be coming back from All-Star break will be great. We'll hit the ground running. Real quick before we get out of here now, the NBA announced their 3-point contest pool for coming up for Saturday's All-Star weekend. Here's what it is, Legs. Devin Booker, Con Kneppel, Damian Lillard, who has not played this year but is available to do the 3-point contest, Tyrese Maxey, Donovan Mitchell, Jamal Murray, Norman Powell, and Bobby Portis. A couple weird ones on there, I'm not going to lie. But they got a lot of guys right. First of all, let me ask you what you think about Damian Lillard participating in the competition, even though he's been out. Obviously, he can't play basketball, but he can do a standstill 3-point contest.
Well, let me tell you something. I guess you got a very interesting note about this morning from ESPN Research. The last guy to compete in the 3-point shootout without having played a game in that season to that point was yours truly.
Really?
Yes. And the reason that happened, I participated in 96. I won it. I won the competition in 96. Continued to play that season, like game 80 or 81. I tore 3 ligaments in my knee. So I had off-season surgery, and including my ACL, it was a pretty major injury. I didn't play a single game, and it just tracked
I didn't realize this.
And just so happened, I went for like my final clearance because I was passing all the metrics they were putting me through. I had to get final clearance to be clear to play again. And it just so happened it was like Wednesday or Thursday of that week before the 3-point shootout, knowing that my first game was going to be our first game after the break. But the team came to me and they're like, listen, you're the defending champ. So in my case, I had won it the year before. So I was automatically invited.
Yeah.
And they're like, do you want to participate? And I felt weird about it, to be honest with you. I was kind of like, man, I don't know. Like, I haven't played yet.
Yeah.
Should I do this? But then I thought, you know what? It's just shooting uncontested jumpers, like 30 of them, or whatever. Hopefully it's more than 30. But so I did it, man. It was a big brace on my leg, and I went to Cleveland and I participated in 97. and I lost in the finals. I got to the finals again. I lost to Steve Kerr in the finals. But yeah, so I thought that was a pretty interesting note. So I personally do not have a problem with Damian Lillard participating in this contest, having not played a game this year.
Well, I honestly think it's a great pool. Norman Powell was a guy I remember. I think you had him in your list. Wouldn't have been in mine. Bobby Portis certainly wouldn't have been in my pool. I'm just not that, compelled to see him. But I'll tell you what, Devin Booker, Con Knippel, Jamal Murray, Donovan Mitchell, Tyrese Maxey. They all
I don't have any of this in front of me. I wonder, has a rookie ever won it?
I don't know. That's a good question too. Maybe all NBA stats and research can.
I actually think it's really rare to get invited as a rookie.
I mean, that guy shot so pure. I do wish
Knippel's got a pure shot, and he does not jump a ton on it. He's got a pretty quick, compact release. Yeah. Like he might have a legitimate shot in this.
I think for me, in my mind, I just group Jamal Murray, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, and Tyrese Maxey in the same, like they're similar in age, similar, caliber. And so I like that they're all in this because to me, it's really cool. Then you get Damian Lillard's a bit older and you get Con Knippel a little younger. I would have replaced Norman Powell, Bobby Portis. Reed Shepherd, I would have loved to have seen in this one. Maybe not good enough to do it. I don't know. But that's the only kind of changes I would have made. Who do you have winning? If you have to pick one, Legs. Did he freeze?
No, I'm here. I'm just thinking. Okay. Oh man, go out on a limb, make a prediction.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm gonna go. Even though I've said it before, like I know Devin Booker. I don't understand. He should be a higher career 3-point percentage shooter. I kind of just I don't know something about him. I'm getting a vibe, but I think it could be Knippel, Jamal Murray. I think I'm going to go with one of those two guys.
I like it, man. I actually think that's how I would have picked too. Knippel or Jamal Murray. I'm going to take Jamal. Just my guy. He's in the All-Star weekend. First time. I think
it's his year, man. It's his year. He finally broke through, cracked the code, got in the game. His team is playing for a lot this year. He could find himself potentially back in the finals. It would be a storybook year for Jamal Murray if he was able to, put that in there too.
It would be really cool for him. All right, cue that outro music there, Atticus. So good to be back, man. It was fun talking about those two games, too, because they were fun games. Even though they were blowouts, I thought they were meaningfully interesting games. In the NBA, I feel like we're getting more and more of these as we get closer to the All-Star break. And then, of course, afterward, it's the home stretch. So we're back to the games. We're back again on Wednesday. There's a good slate of games all week, so we'll be breaking down the games on Wednesday. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit the like button. Leave a comment below if you enjoyed the show. We'll see you guys then.
We all silly like the mayor.